Hi everyone, I'm your host Donna, and this is Modern Mongolia podcast. Here I talk about how people experience life in Mongolia and the contemporary lifestyle and culture of Mongolians. On every episode, I will be sharing fun facts about Mongolia, and at the end of the podcast, I will spare some minutes for musical pieces from Mongolian artists. So let's get started. Okay, for today's fact, I'm going to talk about winter, even though it's almost the end of the winter. So here it goes. Mongolians have a tradition of counting the coldest days of the winter with 9 days cycles. So there are 9 cycles of 9 days of cold and total of 81 days, which is 3 months of winter. So the first 9 days, which we call Nikyus, starts at December 22nd, and after 9 days, the second 9 days begin, and so on. So it goes until 9th 9 days. First 3 9 days are called Youth of Winter, and the second, third, fourth 9-day cycles are the coldest peak of the winter. So there is words describing how cold it would feel in each 9 days. So it goes like, in the first 9 days, distilled vodka freezes. Then in the second 9 days, triple distilled vodka freezes. Then in the third 9 days, all 3-year-old cow's antler will freeze, and so on. And it goes from 5th 9 days, the coldness start to ease, and on 9th 9 days, it will be like really warm and it will be spring. So right now, at the moment of that I'm recording this, it's the beginning of 9th 9-day cycle, and it's getting really warmer, and I'm really happy that warmer days are coming, and another winter is over. So last winter has been quite cold, that the peak was in mid-January, reached around minus 40 to minus 35. And of course, it was even colder in the countryside. So anyway, it's really nice that winter is almost over and we're having the nice warmer, brighter, sunny days now. So today's episode is gonna be a little bit longer than I imagined it to be. So because there's a lot of news to share, and I will be talking about Lunar New Year celebration, which is called Tsagaan. So first, I want to share it to you because Mongolia has announced 2023 and 2024 to be years to visit Mongolia. So in these 2 years, 34 new countries are temporarily exempt from visa restriction for up to 30 days. So I think this is a great news if you've been planning to visit Mongolia. Just to mention countries that are temporarily exempt from visa are Austria, Australia, Belgium, Hungary, New Zealand, Spain, Italy, France, Poland, Portugal, and others. So I'm kind of excited for that because I'm aware that flying to Mongolia is quite challenging in terms of price, long route. So at least not having to be required to get a visa is going to make it a little bit easier for you. So if visiting Mongolia is in your bucket list, I advise you to start planning to do it before 2025. Moving on to the main topic of today, I'm going to share you with about how we celebrate Lunar New Year's, as known as Tsagaan in Mongolia. So according to the lunar cycle, Tsagaan is the first day of spring, which notes the beginning of the new year. So because of the lunar cycle, the date differs each year. So there is a a lot of symbolic explanations that are related to the Lunar New Year's. You can look it up in the internet. However, let me tell you about how regular families celebrate Tsagaan and like the practical side of Tsagaan. So I think the importance and significance of Tsagaan is equal to Western Christmas celebration, I guess. We start preparing for Tsagaan about 2 to 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago. And we start with preparing boats or dumplings, and we freeze them beforehand. So in average, families make boats based on the number of visitors that they receive. So some families make around 500 and some family make around 2,000 boats. And if we look at the process of making boats, there's a whole separate structure and order of responsibilities in the process of making boats. So each family member gets involved in the process and assigned with tasks. For example, father minces the meat and the mother prepares the dough, knead them and cut them into small pieces, and then mostly men, son or the father, knead the dough pieces into thin round doughs, and women do the part of filling and sealing the ends of the dough and make it boats. So also there is an important role for youngsters that they have to count the boats. I'm sure every Mongolian has a memory of spending a night with family and relatives making Tsagaan boats, having fun and laughing. And usually we prepare boats in one of the coldest weekends in January, and because we freeze them outside on the balcony or on the gear roof, etc. So about the taste of boats, the most common and delicious seasoning of boats is to add cumin in the minced meat. So like for me, the smell of boats with cumin added is the smell of Tsagaan. This year our relatives from countryside were reminiscing about how their families used to go to pick cumin in around August, and it was quite an event that they had to prepare for a picnic for a day with family and relatives. However, sadly, picking cumin with family, this happens much less these days. So after about a month of preparation, cleaning the house, preparing boats, buying food for the table, buying presents for the visitors, etc., the Lunar New Year Eve comes. And Lunar New Year Eve is called Bitun. It is called Bitun because there is no moon on the sky. And Bitun Day ritual starts as we start cleaning and dusting our home in the morning and start settling the table with layers of fried doughs and steamed back of sheep. So the table is quite big and there's a lot of traditional meanings attached to it and symbolic steps that we have to follow, etc. And then there's a traditional wrestling competition is organized every year for Tsagaan, and on Bitun Day most of the conversation kind of revolves around the wrestling match. And then around 6 or 7 in the evening we eat dinner all together with family. We have boats, we have nisle salad, and enjoy the evening at home. And this is for if we are in the city. And it differs slightly in the countryside that on Bitun evening, young families invite elders for dinner, and each family in the camp visits every other family. So, for example, there are 6 families at my grandpa's winter camp, and we visited each of 6 families on Bitun evening, and in every family, we repeated the greeting, ritual of exchanging snuff bottle, etc. And imagine that we had 6 rounds of eating boats in every family, and there was a lot of eating. And eating a lot on Bitun Day is good because it is said that it symbolizes like that we will have food in the coming year, and we should eat as much as we can and leave no space in the stomach, and etc. So it is quite common that we eat like a lot on the Bitun Day. The next morning is the first of New Year, which we call Shininikeng. People wake up before sunrise, and there's a ritual that we must perform first thing in the morning, and that is called Murqargaq. So let me try to explain it. And Murqargaq means to like draw a path. This is quite religious ritual that is determined by Buddhist horoscope. So each person's New Year is dominated by one of the 8 elements that are like fire, tree, earth, space, wind, etc. So there are 8, and the person should take their first steps outside of their house of the new year should be according to the element that is dominating in the coming year. So the horoscope tells the direction, which direction that we should take the first step, and come from where. So early in the morning, everyone performs this ritual of making symbolic route, like going outside of home, walking, drawing a path of their new year, and they come back home. After this Murqargaq ritual, some people go to see the first sunrise of the year, and they go to high spots, hiking, where they can have a sight. This is generally how we start the first day of the new year. And Mongolians believe that everything you do on the first day of the new year determines the whole next upcoming year. Thus, everyone speaks positively. We don't argue. We don't say bad things about people. Even don't take their medication. And that is a real case I witnessed, which my granddad decided not to take his blood pressure pill on Shininikeng, the first day of the Lunar New Year. And the reason is symbolically it's not healthy to take medicine on the very first day of the year. In general, I think I can say that people pay really well attention to their actions on the day of Shininikeng. And then we start the other ritual of greeting, which is called Tsagaan. And Tsagaan can be separated into 3 parts. First, we greet our parents or the oldest family member, and the younger one who is greeting the elder grasps and supports the other one's elbows and says greetings like Amoreno, and the elder one kisses the other on both cheeks. So this is the act of Tsagaan. And for your information, husband and wife don't greet with each other. I mean, they don't Tsagaan with each other. Then the men greet adults with horuk, snuff bottles. And one thing you might find strange is that sometimes younger people gift or offer money bill for elders when they do the greeting, and this is a gesture of respect. And second part is once the whole greeting session is done, people are offered with milk tea and served both, and we chat, ask if they have been healthy and well in last year, etc. And the last part is gift giving part. The host family gives everyone presents. Presents are mostly money bills, socks, boxes of cookies, chocolate bars, or some piece of clothing, etc. As generally Mongolians are very concerned about not losing face to the other, I feel like the tradition has been turned into a competition, and which obviously I don't like much. So some gifts are really just a bunch of useless plastics or nylon goods bought from Chinese wholesalers. However, gladly, in recent years, young families are changing this pattern and being conscious about practicality and starting to choose more eco-friendly local brands for gifts. So that is kudos. And I mentioned earlier that young people offer money to elders as a gift when they greet. I think it's in a sense of reciprocity, that people don't want to end up receiving gifts from their host. So beside of giving respect, this is also kind of in practically making up for receiving gifts, I think, because especially the elders receive a lot of guests, and the cost for elders for Tsagaan is like a lot comparing to the younger family. So kind of considering that cost, it's also an act of reciprocity. And this is a general picture of how Zodlot happens during Tsagaan. And elder people receive the most guests, like for 3 to 4 days in a row, and younger people spend at least 2 to 3 days visiting all the elder relatives to greet them. Sometimes new families or young families invite the elders back to their home to treat them out of respect. And of course, the traffic is unbelievably bad during Tsagaan in Ulaanbaatar, and that's one of the reasons why Tsagaan is quite elongated into whole week, mostly because of the traffic. People only manage to visit 1 or 2 families a day. Then if you have a very big nuclear family, it will take days to visit all of your relatives. On the other hand, in the countryside, it's overall the same. To share about my family's Tsagaan, I spent Lunar New Year's with my grandpa, with my mom, and the man is the oldest and most respected person locally. So a lot of people come to visit and to greet. And for 4 days straight, I helped in the kitchen with my mom and receiving guests, serving salad and boats for people, managing the gifts, etc. And I think Tsagaan is a tough holiday for introverts. And I hope you understand why. And also for singles too. They receive the same old questions like, when are you getting married? When are you gonna have baby? Like that. Nonetheless, things that I like about Tsagaan are that it is important in a way of getting to know people from your own lineage, listen to interesting stories that elders share, keep the familial relationship together, and kids get to meet their relatives, etc. And also, I love that everyone wears traditional del for Tsagaan, and it's a quite nice view in the street to see people dressed in colorful dels. So, about a week later, we go back to our normal routine, go back to school, go back to work. However, the Tsagaan season officially ends on the 15th of new lunar cycle that we call Shining Aron Tawang. Within 15th of the moon cycle, everyone needs to have their quote-unquote religious maintenance by monks. So monks perform rituals and mantric verses to clean the person's year ahead from any obstacles and any bad luck. This is called Jilin Zaslak, and it's a very busy time for monks. Basically, after 15 days, Tsagaan season officially ends, kind of. And for me, I feel exhausted after Lunar New Year. Not only me, it's an exhausting holiday, especially for women and elders. But culturally, Tsagaan is one of the most significant holidays that is part of our Mongolian cultural immunity. Lunar New Year is all about symbolism, and it's like we are transported into another dimension of symbolism, and every single action of us has a meaning and prediction ahead for the year. So this is a big national holiday and also a big part of Mongolian identity that is embedded with religious and also traditional rituals. And this is how we celebrate Tsagaan in Mongolia. Bueno, now my most favorite part of the show, which is Mongolian music break. So this time I'd like to introduce legendary Mongolian folk singer Tumendemberel. And she was a sensational singer loved by Mongolians. And here is her most famous song called Usnii Tungalag Tamiriin Gol. And this enchanting song is about River Tamir. Yes, this is very beautiful song and very famous in Mongolia. So thank you very much for listening to the podcast, and please rate this podcast on Apple Music. And I received a question from last episode that has asked, is there anything that Mongolians do that travelers might find a little strange or weird? And this is from Hogwarts is my home. So I'm gonna answer this question on the next episode. So keep in touch, send me questions that you would like to know about Mongolia, and stay tuned. See you next time. Thank you for listening to this podcast, and if you'd like to keep up with Mongolia, make sure you subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and everywhere else. Хамт байсан маш их баярлалаа. Баяртай.